about to start our third, I think this is maybe this is the fourth Zoom art salon that we've done for Pajaro Valley Arts. And we have three very exciting presentations tonight. Three lovely members of the community that have very long and detailed careers. And each will present roughly for around 20 minutes. And during their presentation, we will turn off everybody else on their mics so that there won't be background noise in the conversation. And then as soon as each artist is finished with their presentation, we'll open it up again, and you're welcome to ask questions and comment before the next artist starts. So the three artists that we have tonight are Guillermo, Yermo, Aranda, Daniella Woolf, and Peter Thomas. And we're going to start with Yermo. So let me tell you a little bit about Yermo. His first name is Guillermo. He goes by Yermo Aranda. He is the current honorable recipient of the 2020 Artist of the Year Award for Santa Cruz County. Yeah. A longtime activist in this community and mural artist. Among his many prolific talents and years of community activism, Yermo is well known and celebrated for his enormous contributions to mural painting. His art often delves into old myths and legends and blends depictions of indigenous ancestry with modern world themes. The work incorporates images of people and their surroundings of the past in Mexico and the US, drawing too from dreams and many spiritual symbols. Coming from a family of musicians, painters, and craftsmen, Yermo has said he feels fortunate to have been tangled up in so many community art projects and to see his work survive for decades.
Thank you.
I'm going to close all my view down except for the speaker view.
Okay, Hedwig is going to handle the images, the slides. So whenever you're ready, we
ready to go.
Okay.
There we go.
Boom. Printmaking, fine art printmaking. I started to get into fine art printmaking in the late 70s. I was fortunate to work with Dan Stopley out of Native Images in Santa Cruz. And through working with him, I learned a lot about intaglio printmaking, lithography, and monotype. This is a 4-color plate. The sienna, the magenta, the blue, and the black. So there was 4 plates in order to create this image, Calling the Dancers. And it's roughly 9 by 8.5. Next. I got into cutting out the images on some of the plates, and of course I worked with different grounds. This is in etching. It's approximately 13 inches tall by 8 wide, using hard grounds, soft grounds, and rosin, the rosin box, where you let the dust settle onto the plate in order to create different gradations of tone. Next. Monotypes. This image is 16 by 11 across, transition, resurrection of a dancer. And monotypes is basically you lay your ink down on a plate. It can be metal, plexiglass. You use a small brayer, evenly putting that ink across that image, and then you come in with cotton balls, Q-tips, hard cardboard, and you can start to pull you're basically drawing. So you can pull out the background, you can reapply inks, you can add colors to it. It's a very loose, very free form of printmaking. You're very limited. From monotype, you can pull maybe 2 to 3 images at the most, compared to an intaglio print, which you can do 100, 200. So next. Mural painting. I've been doing murals since I was a student at San Diego State, 1969. I got to work with a muralist. This particular mural is at the Felton Juvenile Center. It's in the entryway as you come in. They had a program, Redwood, that they called Redwood Program, and some of the young, what do you call them, residents got to work with me on this project. And of course, we tried to touch a little bit on the ancient culture or imagery of different cultures around the world. Next. This is a canvas, acrylics on canvas. It's 4 foot by 6 foot. I prepared my colors ahead of time. I had a whole palette in different cups, and as I needed a color, I would go to my palette and utilize that color. It took me over a year in order to complete this. Popokomlit is the name, and that means the burner in the Nahuatl language. And that's that little figurine that's right at the base below her. You can see the smoke coming up right there. Next. Watercolors. I enjoy watercolors. It's something that I feel like took to very easily. I think I have the patience to go in slowly, just dropping colors in through there. This watercolor is 10 by 12. I do my watercolors on BFK Reeves paper. I love the smoothness of paper. It allows me to work into it real slowly, very lightly. Yeah, I call this the dance of balance. Next. Lithography. This was probably one of my last images as far as printmaking.
Okay, Yermo. Where are you?
Purple are on one plate. In other words, I used a big roller to mix the two colors. That's what it is with when you call it a bleed roll. The browns, the sienna with the darker brown was another plate, another bleed roll. The red was at the end of the print after I dropped all the black in there. I cut out stencils, and with a small brayer, I rolled in that color. And I think I did about 15 of this image. Next. Watercolor. I call this one Eagle Vision because I had a dream about this. It's about 15 inches wide, 8 inches tall. I saw this eagle come in, and it landed, and it was screeching and dancing, and I did several drawings. I included it in a mural, but this was one of the first studies that I did of it. Watercolors, just laying those colors in softly, slowly. Next. This is a mural that I did for the Esalen people, Monterey Bay area. This was also my student. I returned back to college in 2008. I went to CSUMB, and in order to fulfill my, what you call your capstone project, I had to create a project that I could document. And so I did this mural, which is approximately 6 foot tall by 20 feet across. Took me roughly about 4 to 5 months to do this. I worked at it at Gavilan College in Gilroy, and then finally brought it down to CSUMB for my capstone presentation. And it deals with the life of the Esalen people, the Costonoans, Ohlone, the lady in the center, call her the storyteller, and she's telling the story, the creation story of the eagle, the hummingbird, the coyote, Pico Blanco, which is back there in the background, the white peak, and the story deals with the creation of the humans. And it was after a flood that this story supposedly takes place. Next. To those that have passed, acrylics on canvas, 18 by 24, and usually for Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, there's big celebrations, exhibits, and I usually find myself kind of short of images or something to exhibit. So I created this piece specifically for that. I danced for a lot of years. I'm a traditional dancer, and made a lot of different headpieces, worked with feathers and things like that. I love the red and the blue feathers, macaw feathers that are sticking out the back. And so that is those that have passed. Next.
I went too fast. There we go.
Transition. Acrylic on canvas. This is an offshoot, or it came as a result of resurrection of a dancer, the monotype we showed earlier. And here, instead of just the black silhouette, I started laying colors into it and started incorporating different forms around it. So this is 24 by 32 canvas, working with acrylics. Next. Watercolor, the demonstration piece. I always, I teach art a lot with young students, and I always have something on the side that I'm demonstrating. So I'm teaching them watercolor, and so I have different students come up at different times, and I just kind of demonstrate for them how to lay in different colors, whether it's bleeding or you're dropping the color directly. And so this Little Red Fox is one of those projects. It is 6 inches by 8 inches wide. Next. Cheetah. I love, again, I love the form of this animal. Watercolor, it's basically 14 inches across by a little over 10 inches tall. And I did a couple of them. This one was my favorite, of course. My challenge here was to get all the spots in the right place. And so I worked at finding those patterns, inside patterns, in order to give it that feeling and that flow of realism. So next. Drawing, I love pencil. That's where I started. As a young kid, all my friends still tell me they remember me always drawing. And of course, the first thing you get a hold of is a pencil. This is titled Crow. It's 11 inches tall by 9 inches wide. And it was a very good friend of mine, passed away this last year, and I did this in memory of him. He was a very good friend. I think I took about almost 6 months working it little by little until it was finally done. And COVID hit. And so instead of working outside, I actually had about 3 mural projects canceled, postponed, erased. And so I found myself working inside, and I started painting on drums. And this was an eagle that I found online. I go through Google Images and find pictures of different animals, and I just took my time on it. The drum is, they're both 12-inch diameters. I think the Jaguar here is 14 inches in diameter. But something that I enjoyed. I've done about 6 drums since COVID hit. Was it March, February or March? Next. And this is a mural that I just finished here on 18 Westlake, right outside the WIC office, right downtown Watsonville. And I had done a mural here actually in 2 phases. In 93, I did the original 3 sections to the right. And then 97, working with students of the new school under Don Eggleston, I did the 2 sections on the left. Those 2 sections are completely new now. They've been redone this year, or this started last year toward the beginning of fall. It took me about 13 weeks. The panels are 12 foot high, and they range from 12 foot wide to 14 feet wide. The CEO of Community Bridges, which is the parent agency for WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, asked me if I could incorporate some new images, being that the WIC office was now housed inside that building. And so I asked a female friend, to maybe help me out with some ideas. And she sent me an email which read, "Women are light that shines on society like a candle flame on an altar, constant, consistent, and soft." And when she sent me that, all these ideas just started popping in, and my drawings came together, images, and that's it. It's called Society's Light. Thank you.
Thank you. Any?
Yermo,
Yes.
could we see the mural again and could you speak a little about each panel?
The left side, panel 1, each panel's got a name. This one is called Mother and Child. The candle, there's a candle there. So that's where that little text, that message that I got from my friend. And we see the traditional mother and child image in the center, a little more contemporary. Matter of fact, that's my granddaughter and my great-granddaughter that sat for me for that image. I incorporated images of an image of Diego Rivera, lower right. Above that is an Ohlone woman with a child. And then onlooking is a young woman with a child also on her hip. The image in the background is Coatlicue, which is the mother of life and death, birth, and creation. The second panel, actually, I'd like to see if we can move that one-way sign out of there. I tried to get around it, but I couldn't. But the upper section toward the right, center to up and to the right, deals with the cannery workers' strike. The CEO of Community Bridges asked me also if I could include Rigoberta Manchu, which is on the top left. I did include Barbara Garcia and Cruz Gomez, which were, Barbara Garcia was the founder for Salud para la Gente, and then Cruz Gomez worked with the cannery workers' strikes and was very politically active in the Watsonville area. In searching images of mother and child, I came across a lot of images of women carrying their kids. And it turned out to be refugees in Latin America, South America, of people, refugees crossing borders to get away from the unrest, the violence that is happening in their countries. In panel 3, Education and resiliency. The three figures in the center top are the Shilonens in 1985 when we established the Shilonen ceremony here in Watsonville. We started in the plaza downtown. It grew. Now it takes place over at Pinto Lake every year, except for this last year. That ceremony has been happening. Education, I put education in there. It's part of, it's an important part of our lives, along with images such as the corn, which is that grain considered very sacred. There's a pre-Columbian symbol of the moon up there to the top center. And then, of course, the dancers. You have the eagle that spans across there, and the eagle tips go all the way to the first panel. Panel 4 is the eagle representing spirit, and then that circular disc is what they call the moonstone. And there's a story and legend that goes with that. There's some kids underneath there. And they're in both the fourth and fifth panel, and straddling the fourth and fifth panel, you can kind of see a piñata back in there. And the piñata is a very old, ancient tradition on this land and this continent. And it was said that the spirits of our loved ones, those that had difficulty leaving, going on their journey into the afterworld, would get caught up, and the kids were brought in to break that piñata. And when that piñata was broken, the spirits of these relatives were then released to continue their journey. In the fifth panel, we have Quetzalcoatl, which is a feathered serpent. He's that balance between earth and universe. The serpent was considered very, very sacred because it lived on the earth, always caressing Mother Earth. So it was considered the closest thing to the earth mother. And then you have the eagle, the feathers, which was the closest thing to the creator. So that was considered that balance of earth and universe. Quetzalcoatl is also the creative aspect, the positive aspect of life. And there's you can't see it because it's very small, but there's right in the center underneath the head of the Quetzalcoatl, there's Tule, a small slough. There's some Tule houses, and there's geese flying across. There's some deer, bear walking up a hillside. Little details in that small area right there in the center. And that's about it. The workers, panel 2, the workers of the cannery workers, 1985-86. It's considered probably one of the most successful labor struggles to date. You had mostly women that really were not educated, working in a cannery. Probably the majority of them mothers, a lot of single parents that reorganized Teamsters Local 912, got it going again. Manned picket lines, fed the picketers, did things that were probably they never imagined they would be doing in their life. Confronted the police, and when you experience things of this nature, your whole life changes. And that corn at the bottom there, within that glow, that's what I consider. I refer to as kind of a rebirth, because we change, we become different. We've experienced something, and we're not the same person anymore. So I think that covers most of it. Of course, there's always little details here and there, but I believe that's the majority of that.
Beautiful.
Thank you. If there's any questions about any of my work,
The first mural that you showed, where is that one? I've been wanting to see it.
that one is at CSUMB at the Student Union Center, okay, which is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
I wanted to say one more thing that I really appreciated about your work is, and I've heard you use the word transition a few times.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that element in your pieces. You know, how you go from the spirit world to the you know, the natural world, and it's lovely how you make that transition in color and in images.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just thank you. This is really lovely.
It was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I've lived in the area. I don't live there anymore, but it's really nice to see what your influence has been on the area
Thank you.
around Watsonville and going out to the ocean.
Thank you.
So we're ready for our second artist, Daniella Woolf, and which we're very pleased to and excited to see what she has to show us. And what I want to say about Daniella is she was gifted with a culturally rich childhood, grew up amidst a family with a prop shop business that provided a vast array of decor and furnishings for Hollywood set productions. This stirred an endless imagination to translate into her future creations of multiples in textile art. And about her work, Daniella writes, and I quote, "In my practice, I work at organizing chaos, transforming and honoring the energy within the materials. The elements that inform my work are strong verticals, repetition, language, and messages revealed and concealed. The work is rich in process, paying homage to materials that are no longer in use, including such things that were once ubiquitous in our society and now rendered obsolete. Family artifacts and ephemera are a part of my obsession." So go for it. Thank you so much, Daniella, for being here.
Thanks, Rosie. Okay, there we go. So the question came up when I did this presentation, why is my work so ungapachka when my aesthetic is so minimal? And ungapachka is a Yiddish word, which means too much of everything, like too many tchotchkes in the curio cabinet, too many notes, too much stuff. So I grew up in LA in a movie biz family, and we did escape lots of weekends to our mountain cabin, which was in Lake Arrowhead, which you see on the left. I'm about 4 with my mom. And then one of my dad's clients was Disney, and we got to go to opening day at Disneyland in 1955. And we went there a lot when we went there a lot, period. My dad opened up his own prop house in the late 40s and then moved to a giant 10,000 square foot warehouse in the late 60s. And he had floor to ceiling, everything that you could use in movies, TV, print media. And it was a very fascinating place to grow up. One of my favorite things in his shop was this Native American breastplate, and I see evidence of that in my work. My grandparents were extras in the movies. On the right, you see them as Tyrolean or Bavarian people, and my grandpa was on the Perry Mason show for 10 years in the jury box, either in focus or out of focus. And every week we'd look for grandpa and see where was he. On my dad's desk were all these fantastic books like The Styles of Ornament and History of Furniture and antiques. And I used to look at them a lot as a kid. And we went to the Civic Light Opera, we went to musicals, we went to theater, and still stuck in my memory is the set from Oliver, which rotated and revolved. And I've always loved that human forms in relationship to large scale things. And we always went to the LA County Art Museum. We were members and we got all the books from the shows. So it was kind of a culture vulture family. This is an oil pastel of my dad driving our 56 Chevy station wagon. This is the library that I grew up going to. It's the North Hollywood Public Library, and now there is a statue of Amelia Earhart out in front. And yeah, a lot of the colors that I use, there's a lot of geometry in my work. My mom was always knitting, crocheting, or needle pointing. I heard a really great term this last weekend. She was a devoted amateur, so she never stopped her fingers going all the time. And I definitely have that DNA. On the right is me as a surly teenager, my first year at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I went to grad school at UCLA in fiber, and this book was one of my favorite things. This was my mistress. I would go to the library whenever I was on campus and look at this book, The Grammar of Ornament. It was published in 1856, and in the 1970s it was out of print. And now I have my own copy, and it goes through all the civilizations and the patterns that they developed. In grad school, all my work was crocheted. On the far left is Forest, which is 600 pounds of sisal jute and manila that were fiber reactive dyed. In the middle is crocheted picture framing wire, and on the right is crocheted everything white and off-white. I even made a dress so that I could be camouflaged within my own artwork. And on the right, you can see the articulation of the dome, all those crocheted pieces.
Wow.
The next year, I got a spread in the LA Times Magazine, and they made me into Modigliani Girl. That piece went to the Tapestry Biennale in Lausanne, Switzerland in 1975, and I got to go there and set it up. Then I was hired by Public TV in LA to do a cyclorama for a sound stage, which was 400 running feet by 22 feet high. It used 10,000 yards of burlap, which were fireproofed. And I had the entire IATSE union doing all the work for me, and me just saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. And then I did it in silk for the Bonaventure Hotel in LA. This was a piece, a crocheted piece for Blue Cross of Southern California. It used thousands and thousands of these nest forms. I would do another 100, think I was done, and that would get swallowed up, and then another 100 and another 100. It seemed like it would never end. Then in 2000, I found encaustic, and I had this giant love affair for close to 20 years with beeswax. This is sewn eucalyptus leaves that are dipped in encaustic. I started teaching encaustic. I taught for R&F Paints, which is a paint maker in all the Western states. And then I taught independently in Italy, in Australia, in Canada, and the Netherlands. This is on Whidbey Island, and my darling Shannon is here today. I saw her. Then Judy Stabile and Wendy and I started Waxworks West, and we had a blast for, I don't even remember how long, 10 years. They were the most fabulous business partners anybody could have. We went to Korea. We gave a presentation on paper and encaustic in Korea. We had a state-of-the-art studio. Thank you to Wendy and her design capability. We taught students from all over. We made instructional DVDs. I wrote a couple of books. One of our illustrious students, Kathleen Crocetti, made portraits of us with a little teeny weeny hot wax stylus pen. These are students from all over the world, from Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, Germany, France, Canada, and Salt Lake City. I won a couple awards on the way. This is the beautiful photographs of Shmuel Thaler for the Gail Rich Award. This is the Rydell Award. So you can see that scale thing with, you know, coming from all that theater that I watched as a kid. This is my dear twin, Marianne Carson. Twin because we have the same birthday. I'm 20 years older. But this is a piece called Just Checking. It's my mom's checks that are all sewn together and dipped in wax, shown at the Santa Cruz County Bank. These are my family letters written to everybody in every form that I shred up and put together in this woven type format. Then I had a very astute, wonderful studio mate / assistant, Melody Overstreet, who would procure things that she knew I would love. These are library due date cards that she and I sewed together. And this is them all folded together so that they could ship or just have a different look. Melody also found Vans shoe repair tags for me right up the street from PVA, and this piece is hung at PVA. Gail's Bakery, Take a Number tickets that are all bound together. My Form of Book Arts. This piece is called OCD but Not Perfect, and you can see I really get into my OCD here. This is strung paper, and you can see the scale of it. They are 1/4 inch squares, and the whole piece is 18 inches square. Then a whole show of tiny pieces like that, along with big totems. Then I got into my boat period. And that was because when Wendy and Judy and I were in Korea, I think Kim was with us on that trip. On your far right, you see it's a wall of paper bags in a tea shop in Korea. And I just said, I have to do something like that. So I learned how to fold boats, and I did zillions of them and then showed them in different forms. And on the right, they're rolled up as sculpture. I've done some collaborations. This is with Lynn Mizono, who's a designer, and Gail Ortiz. Gail did the sewing, Lynn designed this vest, and I did the cutout with an X-Acto knife. This is Tyvek, and this was in one of the fashion shows. Collaboration with Linda Watson. These are railroad tie wires that we rusted and sculpted into lots of different forms. Then I went to Shake-A-Rag, which is in Sewanee, Tennessee, and I started doing these little totems. I studied with this wild man, Michael Brennan Wood. I studied with my dear guru, Dorothy Caldwell, in Toronto. These are wax and India ink books. I studied painting with Mary Jo Koch in Bonnie Doon. And this is my favorite tool, the number 11 X-Acto knife, in which I cut stencils. And Wendy was designing stencils for Stencil Girl products, and I said, ooh, I'd like to do that too. So what you see on the top row is photographs which have been converted into stencils. So the far left is shooting up through that art piece into the skylight at the Ma, and that became a stencil. And that same art piece rolled up became another stencil. And then the third one is a basket, the bottom of a basket, Mexican candy, or candy in a Mexican store. And then the far right are coils of wire at the old Orchard Supply. On our travels, I get inspiration for stencils. These are bricks in Southeast Asia, brickyard, a stone wall in Turkey, a wall at a spa in Morocco, an incense factory in Vietnam. This is the entrance to the art party in San Jose. And then you can see all those little fish fillets. These are photos all in Southeast Asia. And then we all bought watches in Laos that were made of fabric that didn't tell any time. Kim and I dressed in the local garb. This is in Mexico with the BBs and the Stabiles. And if you ever get a chance to hear Joe Stabile do his art performance piece with an orange, just definitely take it. Morocco. So the end of 2019, I thought that I would give myself an assignment, and my goal was to use up what I've got. And so I devised a collage every day for a year, and I had no idea the pandemic was coming. So I used sketchbooks, travel journals, my textile modules, greeting card designs, everything I had. And I did at least one a day. Some days I did 6 a day. I was so into it, and it was the perfect thing to do during a pandemic. It gave me a structure and a routine. I'd start everyone with my morning pages, which is a form of journaling. And then I would weight them overnight, and then I'd zigzag stitch them together. And I just thought, oh my goodness, the back is really interesting too. And then I noticed that the light was coming through these pieces where the needle, the sewing needle, had poked through the paper. So my guiding principles were be kind to myself, use this about the same format for all the pages. If my inner critic is present, escort her out of the studio. Don't judge, don't think, just make a collage. And sometimes I shred photographs and sewed them back together, and used watercolor and travel sketches and eraser prints. And I like to make prints out of people's names. So this is my granddaughter Elliot's name made into a repeat pattern. This one says impeach. And then I'll show you how I make them, starting with the morning pages going down in the alleys, and then something in the upper right. And usually they're kind of in the same color wave, or that one in the middle is the one that tells me what colors to use in the whole collage. They're done on Reeves BFK quarter sheets. And then Kim helped me to video all 365 pages in 6 videos that are each about 2 minutes long, so that you can see the front and the back, and you can see the whole thing in maybe 15 minutes. So there's going to be a link to this on the PVA website. So I won't do this whole thing, but last November, I started a brand new sketchbook that I work on every night while we watch the news. And I have been wanting to design fabric for years and years and years. And now there is a place called Spoonflower, which is a print on demand company that prints fabric and wallpaper and all kinds of products. And so this is my latest obsession, is designing fabric. And these are some of the ones. So in the upper right, you can see my sketchbook. And then below that is my computer screen. So I put it in Adobe Illustrator. And then the actual fabric on the left. I'm having more fun than a girl ought to have. And then what I'm doing for takeaways is I'm collaging fabric. I'm gluing down fabric and then as a collage element, and then I'm painting a path to the fabric with watercolor, gouache, or any kind of paint I feel like it. And these are 8 by 8. So some things you may or may not know about me. I have a fountain pen fetish, and I'm always looking for the right blue, and I think I've found it. It's called Bay State Blue. I have art crushes, which I post on a Pinterest board. Kim and I love to have theme parties. So going across, you'll see the iris party, the green and orange polyester party, the stripe party on the next row down, the yikes, dykes and stripes party, the dress like your pet party, and the clashing patterns and pie potluck. I love this man, R.R. Jones. He is an extraordinary photographer, and he knows how to photograph everything, especially artwork. So I'm really happy that with each series that I've done, I've taken it to him and had him document it. I know Carol is here tonight. Thank you, Carol. I had a show at her gallery in Pasadena. For me, gallerists are the ones who know how to show my work best. So I just turn it all over to them and thank them for their expertise. And the very best thing in my life is being a grandma. So this is before and then after, and you can see the after with all the masks. So that's what I got.
Yeah, everybody can unmute themselves and ask questions.
How do I, okay, stop share.
Yay, Dee Dee!
You just blew my mind.
Amazing.
So beautiful. I hear Beatty.
Daniela,
I'm in a
how
dark
where
room.
to get fabric?
Christine, hi.
Fabric
Bethany,
woman.
you are in a dark room. My God.
Yeah, I don't have any lights on. I came late. My daughter and I were doing Qigong downstairs.
Hey, Daniela.
Hey, Jane.
Yeah, hi. Great performance.
Thank
I
you.
could watch your. Hey, Daniela, can you tell us a little bit more about the spoon flower company?
Yeah,
Great.
it's a print-on-demand company. It started because the woman wanted to print her own curtains or something like that, and there was no company that did it. And so she and her husband started this company, and it's grown to astronomical proportions. There are thousands of people designing on it, and you can have your own shop, which is what I have now. And they make fabric. They have, I don't know, 20 or 30 different kinds of fabric that they print on. They make wallpaper, gift wrap, masks, pillows, all kinds of products. It's just spoonflower.com. You can go there and check it out.
Daniela, just one question more. What's the ink like? I mean, what?
We're blocked.
What?
Silence. Anybody there?
I'm not sure what it is, but
it just looks like
It
fabric
is.
dye. Or
Very
something.
vivid. Yeah, very vivid.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's really amazing.
God, those things are gorgeous. Well, it all is pretty.
Yes.
It's
gorgeous.
really a good company.
Yeah.
And you can go on eBay and buy and type in what kind of, or just type in spoonflower, and they sell a lot of stuff through eBay. I don't know, you can order it you can order cotton, you can order twill, you can order stretch.
Yeah.
I've ordered things from their eBay company, but as Daniela says, it started out with people just wanting to design their own fabrics.
So I have fabric swatches that I get from them on all, it's like, this is how the color prints on organic cotton knit, on silk fight, on peel and stick removable woven. It's just an explosion, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And
They had, I'm
I'm
sorry.
learning Adobe Illustrator, kind of teaching myself what I need to know. And I got to say that Beth is too fast for me to study with, but on YouTube, I can freeze
I'm not
frame.
teaching anymore.
I can just freeze frame and watch it 1,000 times until I get it, because I'm kind of slow on the uptake,
We have really good classes at Cabrillo.
I was just to mention, I believe they still have a Facebook page, Spoonflower.
Yeah.
Probably.
If you're interested, I had joined that quite a while ago, but haven't looked at it for a while.
And
So
they're fast. I mean, I get my stuff really fast from them.
Mhm.
So, they have this fun thing that is called a cheater quilt. And so you can take your designs or anybody's designs. They give you a grid that's 1 yard, and you can make a quilt out of all these different fabric designs. And it's, you know, maybe I think it was like $12 or $18, something like that.
Is that yours, Kim?
It's another piece of Daniella's cloth that I'm going to make now.
Oh, yeah.
That was just wonderful, Daniela.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you so much.
I wonder if that-
Fantastic.
Yes, very enjoyable.
yeah, very wonderful.
I mean,
Thank
what,
you.
what a body of work. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is so inspiring. They're gorgeous. Everything is so fun.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, really love it. And of course, it looks just like something you would do. All these different things.
Really ungapachka, right?
There you
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I love that word.
She really looked like that as a teen too. She really did. It's in the genes.
There's my cousin. I got
It was, and it was so good to see the family. You know, I mean, there everybody was, and yeah. And your work, my beloved cousin, I'm so proud of you. But boy, such a volume, and so much. Bless your heart. Love you.
Love you.
That's wonderful. And we're going to go to the next inspiring artist, Peter Thomas, coming up next. 40-some years ago, Peter and Donna Thomas created hand-sewn blank books for sale at early Renaissance fairs. And from those early days, their curiosity and deep research has grown into creating imaginative and beautifully crafted and illustrated artist books to tell stories, praising nature, song, and poetry. And I found this on Peter's website. In his words, he says, being a book artist is more than just making books. It's living and breathing them. It's about becoming so involved with the subject matter that the physical attributes of the book reveal themselves. It's about listening to the materials, invoke the proper text. It's about loving those materials and knowing them so well that we feel their desire to be used in the book we are making. We didn't begin our artistic careers planning to be artists of the book. It was more a case of being called, inspired with a desire to make a good book, one that through the materials in the text and by the visual and tactile impact will move the viewer from the everyday to a new place, a place that stirs the soul. So thank you, Peter, for your presentation. We really look forward to what you've got to show us.
Well, it's a treat to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for those of you who are zooming in for the first time to these sessions. And we want to thank, of course, the Art Center for putting on these kinds of sessions where we can learn about other artists in the community. It's been a treat. I had met Daniella, but had never met Guillermo. And so to learn about both their work has been really exciting for me. I work with my wife, Donna. We work collaboratively and individually both. And Donna right now is on a Zoom because her other passion is hiking, and that reflects in a lot of her work. And she circumnavigated the San Francisco Bay Rim Trail, and there's a meeting of circumnavigators tonight. So I'm on my own, even though pretty much all the work we do is collaborative. So Don and I have been working together since 1978. That's when we started business. And so we celebrated 40 years of making books a couple of years ago. And if I was at all clever like Daniella was, I could have showed you our retrospective 40-year show, but I'm not that clever. And so I'm gonna have to do what I'm gonna do here, which is show you, we started out making blank books, which is what I mentioned that we made with fabric that we bought in town, and then fell into this little niche of making miniature books. And miniature books are books that are under 3 inches tall. And when we started, the books were pretty much big books made little. And at the time, I really didn't. I mean, the quote that was shared with you talked about us being artists of the book, but at this point, I think really it was much more of a craftsman trying to make something as beautiful as a craftsperson could possibly make. I think the beauty is what drove us. Just how do you make something as beautiful as you possibly can? And so, but the books very much look like a typical book. Now, that's so nice. But what happened then was we got interested in structures and making structures. And when the personal computer came along, all of a sudden our world was freed up, because before the computer, the only way to get words on a page was to actually have a printing press. And so that's what we have. And the only way we could do it is by setting the type. And once the computer came along, we could all of a sudden get color on the pages. So our visual palette expanded, and then that drove us to these thinking of more structural things. So in a book like this, Donna did a watercolor painting, and then it was digitally reproduced on my handmade paper. I make paper for all of our books, so all of the sheets of paper that all these books on that you see are all books that are all the paper that I made. I can tell that a presentation goes much better if you plan ahead, but there's life for you. So this has a lot of the work, like the tile on the front, Donna made with Polly Goldman at her studio. And then this is a book where Donna wrote out the whole book, and then we digitally printed it and bound it as an edition. So many of our miniature books that are more interesting to show are with Donna's watercolor illustrations. And if they're something I worked on, they're probably more typographical. We ended up writing an awful lot just to be book artists. I think if this book artist really, it requires that you deal with text. There's a lot of book artists that don't use text in their book, but I kind of think that's kind of like making a painting and not using red. I mean, it's not going to be as good a painting as if you use red. And so therefore a book, I think, will not be as great an artist book if you don't use text. So what kind of text? That's the big question. What inspires a person? Well, all sorts of things inspire us. And people are always asking, how do you get your ideas? And that's something no one can ever explain. But some books are driven by the idea of wanting to make a book like this one here. We're wanting to make a book with a wood cover. So then what goes with wood? Well, nature. And so Donna then documented one of her long backpack trips. And so the text is handwritten and letterpress printed on my handmade paper with her watercolors sewn in. This is an edition of 30 copies. Then it's housed in a backpack. And this book was about 8 inches tall and 12 inches wide. You're also silent, but that's because you're muted. So this is a book that we made that perhaps is more of a, we thought of this as a reliquary or a, reliquary in honor of the people who taught us how to make paper in England. We spent, made 3 or 4 trips to England to study paper making with these old fellows that we found in this small village where there'd been a paper mill that had closed in 1970. And if you're interested more, the story's all there. And the book has a digital component. That's this book here, where it's a digitally printed text. And then it contains a flash drive with the audio recordings of the people that we interviewed. And the book is transcribed interviews of the people that we learned the paper from. I was just looking at my watch to see how I'm doing. I'm doing okay here. So these are the things piled together. Now let me see if I get back. We've done some books in collaboration with other artists, but often they don't know that they were collaborating with us. For example, this book here we took Gary Snyder's poem, Paiute Creek, and we wrote to his publisher and asked for permission to publish it and paid our $50 fee to use his poem. And then we made a book out of it. But what kind of book do you make with a poem like that? And so in this case, we decided to make the book scrolling, so it'd be like the river, like Paiute Creek coming down. It goes from Yosemite down into the Muirs Canyon right by White Wolf. And so the book scrolls and you can pull it out, and books don't translate so well into pictures, but this is the idea of the book. And I really wish I'd made this bigger to show you, but this illustration here is made with sprayed pulp to create the background colors, and then with a brown linoleum cut key block. So we actually spray the pulp on using stencils. That I think all of us, all three artists today have mentioned using stencils. One other artist we collaborated with was Albion Smith, the jeweler. And Albion had made this wonderful little book that he printed himself. And what he did was, if you can see on the cover, he cut each letter out of copper, glued them to aluminum plates, and then invented his own process of printing. And when I saw them, I said, I really wanted to present them in a more beautiful way in a fine press book. And so this is the book. And what Albion came to our house, and we made paper from his clothes. And so that's why the book has all the different colors through it. Each batch of clothes made about 30 sheets of paper. So the book ended up being an edition of 30 copies. Here's the plates that we used to print from, glued into the bed of the press. And then we made a digital book to go with it that would describe the collaboration, so that people who were collectors of Albion's artwork would understand what went into the artist's book. There's been a number of other things we've been involved with. I did a series of books out of ukuleles. So you can see various ways. And you can, of course, look at all these things on your own. But this whole idea of how can you make I think this is when I became an artist. And I think that's the important thing to talk about here is, as I said, I really thought of myself maybe more of a craftsman, trying to make a work of beauty. But I got really intrigued with trying to make different books out of ukuleles. Let's see if I get back to where I want to be. Oh, yeah. They're kind of small thumbs, but you can see I ended up taking the ukulele and in some way making a book form out of it. So you can see this one's a fan book. This one has, you can see down the middle, it's called a fan four-edge, a book, a ukulele book, a real book, scrolling book. So these all get bigger when you if you want to look them at your own computer. But let's see if I can do. How am I doing? I just got a few more minutes left here, don't I? So I was going to show other things that I do. I started the ukulele club here in Santa Cruz, and I've been involved over the last 10 years. Donna and I have traveled around the country in our Gypsy Wagon trailer, and I've been teaching classes in playing ukulele at the folk school. And let's see if I can get this to work or not. Do I have to say no thanks? I guess so. And can you all see this? Nod if you can. able to learn a number of things. That the tin can was, I studied with that guy that made tin can art. And so I've been making tin can art, and blacksmithing. I've learned, so I made our houses, all the scroll work on the wagons, blacksmithing. So what's an artist, you know? When we were in Kalamazoo, there's a guy who's a printmaker, and we were going to go kayaking with him. And we were planning from Washington, D.C. writing, well, we're going to be in Kalamazoo in about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. What day can you go? Can we plan to go kayaking with you? He says, I'm an artist. I can go any day.
There you go.
So that really freed me up. And now I know I'm an artist.
Thank you very much.
Was so gorgeous and varied and really
Thank
inspiring.
You, Peter. Say hi to Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you all out there.
Yeah. Peter, thank you.
Yeah, Peter.
Great.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I want to put a plug for your website, Peter. If you go onto Peter's website, you can see all those images, and they open up. You can see how amazing the books are, and the variations, and the imagination that they've put into these works are just wonderful.
Yeah, we will post a recording and the corresponding links to the PVA website for everybody to look back. Yeah.
All right.
Peter. Thank you, Rosie and Hedwig, again for a wonderful salon.
Seeing all three of you, incredibly varied and powerful work. It's making me. I've got to start drawing more again.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I've been gardening.
Well.
I want to make one last sales pitch. Let's see if this comes in. They've just, a publisher called Legacy Press has just completed our bibliography, which lists Donna made over 300 one-of-a-kind books. We've made over 160 edition books and all the other things too. And it'll be available. I don't think it's going to be cheap because it's really thick and it's all color. But it'll be out in about 2 weeks.
Thank you, PVA.